Hiya, it's me, it's Gabby. Welcome back to Big Creatrix Energy. Today, I'm elaborating on what this morning's lesson, co-creatrix session even, inside the Creatrix Coven was. And while I was teaching it, I shared on this topic and then we spent 20 minutes activating it, creating it. And when I was speaking about it before we started our creatrix session, before we started making the art, I was so excited to talk about this concept of vision booking, because it feels fun, it feels important, it feels beneficial. And it really is the fusion of psychology and creativity, and how I so strongly and deeply see those things as so interconnected. Your psychology informs what you create. The way you think, how your brain processes things, that is what gives us each such a unique and inimitable style, and why I think it's so valuable for everyone to have a creative output. But also, your creativity is a tool for you to understand and access your psychology, who you are. When we create things, we give ourselves the opportunity to communicate with ourselves, to process ideas, to see what it is we're actually thinking about. It's one thing to have an idea or come across something, and it really does inspire you and excite you, but only for a moment. If we just see that thing and carry on with our lives. You know how you can leave a movie and you feel like you could kick a fucking door down. You're energized to change, to do something, to develop an entirely new personality, whatever it is, but you've consumed a piece of art. You've been present for what someone has created, and in doing so, it's influenced you. It has communicated with you. Something in that creator and how they've processed it has formed this finished piece that they can share with other people, you being one of them, and you have been influenced by it. That's all fine and well. That's all fun. That's what makes us addictive and ever searching for the next thing that gives us that energy, right? It's why we want to consume beauty so much, because it's stunning. The feeling we get is great, but if you want more than that, if you want more than being like this passive consumer who's just searching for your next fix of entertainment and beauty outside of you, then you can choose to become a creator. You can choose to be a person who makes the art and who contributes to the conversation instead of merely being an observer of the conversation all the time. There's always going to be time and place, honey cakes. Like, you're always going to be an observer and someone who's seeking inspiration. All this to say, when we make vision boards, they tend to be something that is static, something that is frozen in time, something that we will spend an afternoon devoted to creating, get energized about. You might even be like me and love starting some part of your day with scrolling through Pinterest and finding new things to inspire you and to paint and be like, I'm going to do that later. That's going to feed into this project and I'll remember it. I just will. And so we have this practice of seeking inspiration, of getting inspired. We purposefully watch movies and documentaries and read books because we want them to give us certain ideas and develop our perspective in certain ways. We are actively and passively seeking out inspiration all of the time. It is a conscious and it's also an entirely subconscious process of desiring new input. It's like the core of our humanness right there. And what I have observed in myself, in other creatives, in the creative idols I have, who I've watched every interview and documentary and read every book and just sucked the juice up of everything that they've been sharing. What is so obvious is that people who are able to be masters in what they create, people who genuinely have something unique and valuable to offer the world, they are so immersed, usually for the entirety of their lives, they are deeply immersed in their creative practice. And that means they are insanely prolific. Their output, unparalleled. They make a shit ton of art. They are committed to the process of trying out ideas until you get somewhere. And they are also so focused on processing what it is they are, consuming. They want to connect the dots. They want to research deeper. They want to know why something inspires them and what it is it means to them and how they can fuse it into their own language and their own art that they're creating. People who are prolific and impactful and influential creatives on every scale, every point of that spectrum that you can imagine, all of them. Anyone who's created something and you're like, how the fuck did they make that? They are a genius. This is brilliant. All of them are committed to their creativity. They're immersed in what their ideas are. They're immersed in figuring out who they are, developing themselves intellectually, developing themselves spiritually, so they're able to focus, they're able to channel their energy where they want to send it. Because we can get busy with a whole lot of things in everyday life when chances are you really only want to get busy with a certain few things. You really have specific projects, specific dreams at any given moment that you want to channel your energy towards. And when you see creatives who've done that successfully, who've been so obsessed on one idea and so obsessed in developing themselves through a certain medium, their genius comes from that obsession, that studying. I love hearing Tyler, the Creator, speak about music and his creative process because he's a nerd for it. He is obsessed. He will do what is necessary to figure out how the perfect chord patterns fit together and how different melodies will overlay to create a sound in the exact way that he can imagine it. Because he's been so insanely committed to developing that skill. And it's really about being respectful of what it takes to create something brilliant, of what it takes to truly be an individual in this world, but also connected to other people, but to really understand who you are and what the unique position you have to experience this world that we're in. That's what the gift is. And that's the thing that we get to explore through our art. And it's only when we let ourselves pursue the things that for whatever reason feel meaningful, feel attractive. When we hear something mentioned and we go down these rabbit holes of learning more about something, of watching a movie by someone and loving it and being like, well, I'm going to watch every single thing they've made. I'm going to listen to all of the interviews with them. I'm going to get to the nitty gritty of what is the secret I'm trying to find from this person. And usually what it is their commitment. That's what's so attractive about creatives, about artists. They are committed to making their vision real. And to be able to do that, you have to know what your fucking vision is. You have to be connected to your vision. And so when we make these static vision boards that we'll do maybe once a year, maybe quarterly, if you're redonkulous like me. But at the end of the day, you're gonna put that thing up on the wall, or you're gonna have it as the background on your computer or your phone, whatever. You're going to have it somewhere where you are subconsciously looking at it, probably multiple times a day. And that does a lot. We know that we don't need to get into it, but that does a lot to change our beliefs, to change our perspective, because we're giving ourselves even those subconscious minimal moments to connect with what our dreams are and what our goals are. It's doing more than nothing. And sometimes that's the best we can hope for. But what if we engage with this a little bit deeper? What if we recognize the fact that if you're anything like me, your goals and your visions don't necessarily feel like a static thing. They're not maybe all potentially something that you can even write down on a list or encapsulate in certain, photos or things that have inspired you. Maybe your dreams are this concept that is ever evolving. And with every new thing that you read or every new experience that you have, it gives you a little bit more information. And it kind of isn't enough to just collate a bunch of images and expect them to be a full representation of this like living, breathing organism that is your internal drive and creative ambition. Maybe that thing wants to be played with. Maybe that thing wants attention so you can understand how to communicate it. Because I really believe that we all have a feeling of the concept of what our goals are. And the languaging on that is so vague and silly when I say it out loud, but I have a vague concept of what my goals and dreams are and what I want my projects to be. But it isn't necessarily always something I can easily list out. And so trying to force, this is like round peg, square hole kind of situation, right? Like trying to force something that is not the case isn't going to be motivational, isn't going to help you accomplish something because it doesn't connect. What I think is a better alternative really is, instead of having one static vision board that we maybe update on a somewhat regular basis, what if that's how we use our sketchbooks? What if that's how we use our journals and our notebooks? We let it be a place where, shock horror, we express ourselves. We go to see a movie and we come home and we crack open our vision book and we could print out pictures of stills from the movie if you can get them, or colors and whatever reference points make sense. We can print out pictures, or we can just write. We can write about what has inspired us, how we feel in that moment. Suck the juice out of the energy that exists when we're truly turned on and truly inspired and truly feeling that spark. That is when we're going to get the most value from not even taking a microscope, but just letting ourselves explore that deeper. Letting ourselves be okay, I hear this train of thought. Let's dive into it. Tell me how you feel, baby cakes. How did this movie make you feel? Giving ourselves a chance to actually process our thoughts and to have ideas. And this was really, what we did in our co-creatrix session today. And I did some collages and wrote what these images mean to me and how they're impacting me right now. And I know, because I've done this in the past before, when I look through my old sketchbooks and journals, I can see myself making this visual diary of my life. And when I look back through them, the parts that are most beneficial are the parts where I am conversing with myself. I'm leaving reminders for myself. And some of that is visual, some of that is written, but it's not just a folder filled with pictures. Or it's not just noting down the events of the day, but it's interacting with the things that inspire me, the things that I want to explore deeper, and giving me a chance to record that and record my progress through it and record what I'm striving for in any given moment and what my goals are and what I think I want and what projects I think I want to work on. So then I can step back and flip through, and it can be, I can do some pattern recognition. I can see which projects I've been yapping about, and so I clearly want to create. And from that, it gives you information about yourself. It gives you information about where you want to be going. It helps you see yourself so much more clearly, because you can see these ideas for projects that are really persistent. And you can see these ideas for projects where you're at one moment I felt like I really wanted to do that. but then for whatever reason, the energy around it evaporated, and you get in tune with your creative expression. So then when you inevitably go through the ebbs and flows of energy and enthusiasm, then you can know you're not going fucking crazy. This is just how creativity and energy ebbs and flows. And we was talking about this on today's call as well, because something that I feel really motivated about making clear that the Creatrix Coven is a place for this, that creativity is like our tool. It's a thing we ultimately do selfishly as the baseline. There's absolutely the desire to communicate, there's the desire to be valuable, there's the desire to be able to collaborate with other people and connect with other people. But ultimately, the feeling and the desire to create emerges from us internally. It feels like an innate desire, right? And I think the more that we accept that as a fact, then we let ourselves make what it is that we really want to make. And we also let ourselves use our creativity as a tool to process life and to process our experience. And we can come to that tool anyway. This is something that can really stop a lot of people from creating in the ways that you want to. When you get stuck in this way of thinking that you create your best work in a certain way. For some people, that's like this troubled artist trope of like, I make my best art when I'm heartbroken. I make my best art when I'm on my fucking knees, man. And absolutely, there is a time and place for that type of art. You might be on the other end of the spectrum where you're like, I make my best art when I'm feeling taken care of, when I'm feeling nourished, when I'm feeling happy, when I'm feeling settled, when I'm feeling calm. And as soon as anything shifts in my life and I'm out of this routine, I'm out of this structure, then I don't feel safe enough to create, or I don't want to create. I only want to create art from a joyful place when I'm feeling this certain way, when I feel really enthusiastic, when my energy's buzzing and it feels so obvious to create and so easy to create. My whole thesis, my whole proposal is that actually we can create regardless of what mood we're in. We can create regardless what our energy is, because that is what is most beneficial. That is how we actually get to know ourselves and use creativity as the most insane personal development tool there could ever possibly be. Because yeah, you're getting to know yourself. You're getting to like go into the crevices of your mind and soul. But you're also quite literally creating yourself. You are creating the version of you that you aspire to. You're creating the version that your actions, positive or negative, inevitably create. It's not a choice of whether you want to be like, yeah, absolutely, let's girl boss this shit. I want to create myself, although it absolutely is that. But it's not entirely that. You're creating yourself regardless, you know? You're manifesting regardless of whether you're doing it intentionally or accidentally. You are creating a new version of yourself. It's like if you look at the actions you took 6 months ago and previous, that is the current reality that you're living in. You're living in the repercussions of your previous choices. So when we are like made aware of that and we're like, that's terrifying, then we can choose to make different choices now to create a different future for us in 6 months for the rest of our lives. Because of our choices, we become aware that, oh, I'm actually the creator of like this experience that I'm experiencing. How fucking fine and dandy is that? Right? So when you're aware that you get to create things in whatever way that you want, doesn't it then make sense to be like, okay, well, I need to explore what all of that means, and it needs to be this ongoing thing. And you can do that in the pages of your sketchbook by giving yourself a space to explore what excites you. So your dreams are not static. They're not something that's set in stone. They're not something that a Pinterest image is necessarily gonna get the whole story on. Maybe you have to develop it yourself by playing with that idea, not just pinning it on a board, but sticking it down, circling and highlighting and marking in the most like complex ways and also in the simplest ways. It can take you 2 seconds to do a doubles page spread, or you can spend an entire day doing it. It's entirely up to you and up to the moment. But the thing here is that you play around with it. You let yourself interact with the ideas and the inspiration that you're taking in. So then you actually understand what it is that you care about, what it is that has significance to you. And what you'll find often is from different reference points, what to most people might not immediately go together. And that's kind of like how we make things that feel fresh when we converge to things that are like, these don't belong together, but for some magical reason, because of a certain person's life experience and perspective, they are able to fuse unexpected things together and create something fresh. How do you know what your combination is if you're not exploring it? So what we did on today's coven call, I never know like how much I should share about what we do in the calls, because like otherwise I'm like, is that not what the membership is? But ultimately the membership is the community, like being able to be on that call. And today we had a ridiculously beautiful and inspiring conversation after we shared what we worked on and the state of the world. And it makes me so happy to be able to be the host of that space and to also have that space to come to when literally what I'm saying, like the ebbs and flows of life, both like personally and collectively, we still have our creativity to come back to regardless of circumstances. And we can always use creativity as a tool and connection as a tool to process and to really build our hope and build our resilience and our beliefs that we can be someone who's contributing to change in a positive way. It was an excellent conversation. But what we did in the actual co-creatrix session was to do a double page spread, to get our journals out, to get our sketchbooks out, and to collage, to draw, to write, to paint, to create in any way that feels right as a means to actively interact with and develop our visions. To literally sit with ourselves and be like, what am I inspired by right now? What am I fantasizing about? What am I dreaming about? Let me see what these ideas are. And that can feel like it's a really complicated thing to do. And you have to have like these intricate Notion boards where we connect different pages to see like this second brain mind web of our ideas. I'd love that, but there's no way I can keep up with however I would create that. Instead, what I like to do is to be in this continual ongoing conversation with myself and to emerge my ideas in this very organic way, not needing to like feed it into AI the second I think I have an idea, not needing to Google if anybody else has done it, not needing to know if there's a market gap, but to have an idea, and even below that, to just be inspired by something, to see something and be like, ooh, I want to talk about how this is making me feel. I want to talk about these color combinations together. I want to talk about how the chords here and the bridge there made me remember this song that I used to listen to when I was here and la la la. and you let yourself go down these avenues and explore yourself. And in that, over time, you build a creative practice. You build the habit of using creativity as a tool for your, not even just mental well-being, but like you as an entity, you as yourself. You get to know yourself. You get to know what you are capable of. And a lot of the times, like when we're talking about creative confidence or just confidence and being willing to, how do I get the fuck out my way? How do I start sharing these things? Dude, I think a lot of it comes down to how can you get so excited about the thing that you're creating that you're like, I have to step out of the way because I'm shining a spotlight on this thing that I've created, this piece of art, this movement, this whatever it is. It's so beautiful to you. You let it become something that is so moving and motivational to you by the sheer fact that you've willed it to succeed. That in comparison, the bigness and the beauty and the boldness of that really shrinks down whatever problems, whatever excuses, whatever fears, whatever doubts you've been letting like prop up this mask that holds you back and prevents you from letting yourself be seen and letting your creations be seen. You're like, no, let's pull the facade down on that one because this thing is too fucking good. People need to see this, so I guess I need to get the fuck out of my own way. Becoming so motivated by the thing that you've created that you're no longer willing to do a disservice to it by playing fucking small. When you're like, I have the luxury of making this thing, I'm obsessed with it, I want more people to know about it, I deserve to get my fucking credit for this. So you're like, okay, I guess I'll just be brave. I don't know, I feel like that's the more obvious solution rather than like trying to manifest confidence from nowhere. Confidence to do what? You know? I find it so easy to speak and record, whether that's publicly or on the internet or like to myself for an hour in my webcam on a podcast. It's so easy and seamless to me because I'm talking about things that I'm excited to share. If I, had to go on a stage and talk about something I hate or I'm just not interested in or have like no knowledge in because I'm not interested in it, I actually don't know if I'd be nervous, but I'd be like, I don't want to do this. This is not enjoyable. There are naturally so many barriers that come up against that. The doubts of like, I don't know what to say about this would be true because I wouldn't know what to say about it. So the solution there is not like, okay, I need to muster up some confidence so I can just speak and hope that the words magically come to me. Wouldn't a easier option, an easier route, a more effortless route be to really immerse yourself in the things that you want to speak about? Immerse yourself in the things that you want to make art on and share with other people. So then when the opportunity comes, and that might be standing on a stage and speaking about it, or it might be making a TikTok or whatever, writing in your vision book, whatever it is, when the moment comes, you know where to begin. Because you're in conversation, you're having these ideas. I think about it a lot, when I talk about people who want to do a podcast or make videos or just make content in any way, really. And it's like the initial base fear seems to be like running out of ideas or like trying to figure out like which is the right idea. What should I create? Is this the solution? Should I not do this thing? Should I do, what are people going to care about? Which idea is the best? If I do these ideas, then what? I don't want to use all my best ideas from the jump. I need you to understand that the more you're immersed in something, the more you use up ideas, the more ideas you will have, the more you have to play with because you're letting it be in motion. And it's not like, okay, I've done this idea, I now have a blank space. It's like the Hydra, where, is it called that? The, mythology, you cut one head off and like 3 more sprout in its place. I think it's called the Hydra, but I will Google it afterwards and see how potentially wrong I am. But it's like that with ideas in a positive way, not in an absolutely terrifying way. You cut off one idea by birthing it, by actualizing it, by releasing it to fruition, and bippity bop up brand new ideas in its place. And they're the further developed ideas because they have that foundation to jump on. They are the LeBron who's creating the evolution because of what MJ and all the others before him achieved, if you get my drift. We're able to further develop our voice and our expression and our ideas the more we do something with them. And that can be on a public scale and it can be on a private scale. And it's probably going to be on both. The private scale, of course, is the vision book, your vision book. So, how to make a vision book? Gather your supplies. Gather all your supplies around you. Potentially press play on 10 Things I Hate About You to really get into the mood. Or listen to an album from front to back. Only the best. But gather your supplies. And the thing that I like to do to make this like an ongoing thing that's really easy to do is to have your supplies be accessible. Usually that means simplify. And sure, some days I'm going to be like, I'm going to get my pastels and do a spread in my vision book. But most days I'm like, I have a Sharpie here and I have some pictures that are ready to glue in. Let's get to work. It doesn't have to be complicated. And in fact, the easier and more simple you make it, the easier it's going to be to be consistent, and therefore the more productive and the more effective it's going to be, because the reps are what counts. Don't aim to make a masterpiece. Opt to evolve instead. This applies to making anything. It's so hard to try to make a masterpiece. It's so hard to have a solid vision of what you want something to be and trying to create that. It's so hard when you're creating something with an audience in mind, when you're thinking about how other people are going to perceive the thing that you're making before you've even made it. No. Your vision book is a place for you to play and to explore ideas. So opt to evolve instead. You're using this as a tool to evolve. You're using it as a tool to communicate with yourself. So you can use your pages to process ideas, inspirations, thoughts, and feelings. And there's really no rules beyond that. This is your tool. This is your way to connect with creativity. And I have said for years now that the one requirement to be a creatrix is to commit to a creative practice where you, every day, even if it's 5 minutes, I generally prescribe 20 minutes because I feel like that's enough to let yourself relax a little bit into it. But it's kind of like meditation, right? Where like, how long is a piece of string? You know? There are benefits in doing 1 minute of meditation, and there are also benefits in doing 9 hours a day meditation for 10 days straight. Obviously, you're going to get a different experience, but there's not any like, especially when it comes to creativity, there is no timeline involved. Some things that, you know, would be objectively considered as masterpieces, some of them will have been created in mere seconds, and some of them would have been created in decades, entire lifetimes. It's all, at the end of the day, subjective. But the idea here is that you're using this tool ongoingly. You're showing up for your creativity as often as possible, so you have a space to process. And Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way promotes morning pages, which is a practice I will always be a huge cheerleader for. The point of morning pages is to clear you so you're ready to create. So you're ready to do something with the space you've created by getting the junk out. And so sitting down to create for 20 minutes a day, or standing up, it depends what you make really, doesn't it? But committing yourself every day to create for 20 minutes a day is such a simple way to tell yourself that you are committed to your creativity. It's the same as like, if your goal is to work out every day, then all you have to do is show up at the gym, and it doesn't matter if you do 10 minutes or if you do 2 hours, you fulfilled your promise to yourself. And what this allows for is variance. And we need variance to be able to maintain consistency, contrary to popular belief. Consistency is not doing the exact same thing in the exact same way every day, because when we try that, we'll often quickly realize that that's not a sustainable or enjoyable technique, especially when it comes to creativity. So giving ourselves like variance. I like to talk about structure and flexibility a lot. They're themes that come up every single week, no matter what the topic is in the Creatrix Coven. We need structure and creativity to thrive as creatrixes. If we're getting pulled too much in one direction, where we're giving ourselves too much freedom and so we don't know where to fucking begin, or we're giving ourselves too much structure and we feel suffocated and bored, then we don't make art. But when we give ourselves a framework to work and explore and play within, it becomes really easy to start. And the theme of the Creatrix Coven this month has really been the blank canvas and like having this blank space to begin with as we start 2025, but also like it's applicable to starting new projects or starting new whatever it is in your life, a new phase in your life. We're repeatedly going to be faced with what we think is a blank canvas, or what at first glance is a blank canvas, but it's how we color it through our perspective, through our opinions, through our taste, that we already kind of have a little bit of a skeleton on the canvas. What I talk about a lot when it comes to designing cards. So if you're designing an oracle or affirmation or tarot deck, it can seem like a lot to make like 50, 70 cards when you're just looking at 50 to 70 blank canvases. Really, when you start to like get your ideas down on paper, you're like, okay, well, every card's gonna have this type of border. Cool. So it's not instantly every card has one variable accounted for. Every card's gonna have a banner at the bottom of it where I put the word or the sentence for the card in it. Amazing. This skeleton's filling out beautifully. And bit by bit, you add those pieces. You decide what your color palette is, and suddenly you're not looking at the entire rainbow of spectrum. You're only looking at a selection of colors that you're using. You're looking at something that is so vast and so infinite in the possibilities. And the more you actually narrow down and create, reveal that structure that you have, that you want, then you're like, oh, well, now these are the elements. Now I have the skeleton down. I get to create and play within that. I know the choices that are most purposeful for me to direct my energy towards for this piece. And then we can do that. Then we can act. Then we can begin. Instead of it's like, if someone gives you a project of like, I just need you to write something and I'll post it on the website. You're like, so what? How does one begin from there? Whereas if someone's like, can you write 500 words on someone who's inspired you recently? You're like, okay, thanks for the jumping off point. Let's put some pen to paper. You know what the brief is, you know what's required of you, and you instantly have these sparking of ideas. So giving yourself, what I'm saying here, giving yourself that outline of all I have to do to stay committed, to stay in relationship with my creativity is create. Be present for creating for 20 minutes a day. How you do that? Up to you. Can be your vision book, can be opening the notes on your phone and writing something that you've been thinking about, can be taking photos, can be the myriad of things you're going to do. But your promise is just to create every day, to flex that muscle, to stay in conversation with yourself. And when we do that, we open opportunities for us to have new ideas, for us to have deeper ideas, for us to get to know ourselves in a way that we wouldn't if we left the things that we're excited about completely unexpected. We get to be so curious about ourselves. We get to be so interested in and invested in ourselves that we make these gorgeous little notebook, coffee table books about our ideas. How cute is that? And I really think as well, like the idea of our creative expression weaves so much into our self-concept and how our relationship with ourselves, how much we love ourselves. For me, I know that I'm actively practicing loving myself when I'm giving myself attention, when I'm paying attention to my ideas, when I'm not brushing away my ideas or thinking so-and-so could do that better than me, or who am I to try that? But I actually listen to myself and I'm like, ooh, I like that. Tell me more about that thing. And I give myself the chance to speak. And I know I really love myself when I let myself take action, when I see my ideas and my dreams as valuable enough to take up my time, to take up my energy. Because Lord knows our time and energy is pulled in a lot of different directions, and it can seem more reasonable, more logical, more pressing to devote our time and energy oftentimes to anything but our creativity. But if you're anything like me, creativity is vital to your life, and there's nothing more important, or it's at least one of the most important things in your life, is to do something with all of these ideas that you have. Do something with this energy that you have and these ambitions that you have of creating things that can impact other people or put you in positions in life that you crave. You're allowed to want what you want, and you're allowed to create what you want. And really, the thing that allows us to do that is by staying in relationship with ourselves, giving ourselves a space to process our ideas and to refuse to let our dreams be this stagnant thing that we only come to at certain milestones and then we just like leave in the background to hopefully one day actualize. I want us to be like sinking our teeth in our dreams, letting them be something that changes and evolves as we do, and being committed to the process of staying in connection with it regardless. Because you're on this journey with yourself. You're exploring these things and you're not letting it just be this surface level thing anymore. We are letting ourselves make the art that we want to make in the ways that we want to make it and become our hottest, coolest selves in the process. That's really the motto. So next week in the Creatrix Coven, we have our final call for the month of January, which is our Q&A call. It's our group chit chat call. We're going to be talking about Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert as well. And then it's on to February, where we have a whole new theme of content and lessons and workshops and co-creatrix sessions to dive into. So if you're not already, join me in the Creatrix Coven. It is the place to be for creatives online. And thank you so much for listening here to Big Creatrix Energy. Remember, you can be, do, and have anything and everything that you desire. I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye!